And if a therapist is hesitant to say that, then maybe you should seek other therapists.
Candid conversations that might just change how you look at the world. Let's bridge cultures, transcend borders, and build a global family of changemakers. Welcome to If by Chance.
At some point, you or someone you know might need to seek professional help for their mental health. But how do you choose a mental health practitioner? And what does good therapy look like? I sat down with Simran, a counseling psychologist, to find out.
My name is Simran. I am a counseling psychologist, a mental health practitioner from Kolkata, India. And I have been working as a therapist for 4 years now. I mostly see clients between the age range of 18 to 35 and 40 because I feel most of the concerns are in this age range where people do have issues like stress, anxiety, or, a work-life imbalance, relationship issues, exam pressure, and, pressure to excel.
And when it comes to anxiety, how do we know if it's anxiety versus just being nervous in a situation?
Great question. Being nervous is something that would last situation based. Like, say, for example, if we had to record this podcast today, I might be nervous. So that nervousness would just last for 5 minutes or 10 minutes into the podcast, or at max till the podcast continues. So that's nervousness. Stage fright. People do have stage fear. So when they go on stage, the first 5-7 minutes are difficult for them. So that's nervousness. But anxiety is something that it has no reason as such. It might be triggered by something very casual, like, getting late for office, or getting late for a party, or, if you have a party invite and you keep on thinking, oh, what do I wear? I don't know what to wear. Will people like me? So that's basically anxiety, where, there's no specific reason for it, but you do feel stressed for a prolonged period of time. Stress is, as we say, stress or nervousness is short period of time, but if it is prolonged, it's for a longer period of time, and it lasts in basically every situation, then it's anxiety.
Is it different than social anxiety?
Yes, there is social anxiety, there is general anxiety, there is different forms of anxiety. So social anxiety is that you only get anxious when you have to meet people, where you're in a social setup, where you have to maybe public speaking, maybe be host a party, maybe be in a gathering where there are 10,000 people. It's not necessary that you have to address those 10,000 people, but merely being as a part of that party also makes you anxious. So that's something social anxiety. And people with social anxiety, they fear going out, stepping out of home as well, because they feel that people are judging them. I don't know what might be the reason for each individual. It might be different for everyone, but mostly it's they fear what people would think about them and what their opinion is.
And is it something that can be dealt with quite quickly, or does it take quite a while?
See, that depends whether it's anxiety or any other concern. So it depends on intensity, progress, and consistency of the person also to seek help. So that depends. But of course, it takes usually, 6 to 8 sessions to understand, because the initial few sessions we are just understanding the root cause of it. We are understanding the history, where all of it started, and how it started. So it does take time. So I do say therapy is a slow process, and people require patience for it. But of course, I also mentioned that, progress is there.
Would you say that anxiety is more linked to our unconscious sense of self? So for those people that walk into, say, a social situation and they feel anxious and they know that they're being silly and that people aren't necessarily thinking bad things of them, but they can't connect with their unconscious self to calm themselves down. What sort of things can be done then?
See, I would partially agree to it. It could be something unconscious or something conscious as well, because it depends on what is triggering you. Is it some past experiences that you've had in a social gathering that is triggering you, and then you realize that you don't want to get into social setup, or it is you consciously thinking about yourself, like a constant self doubt, or
Mm-hmm.
constant questioning about what people are thinking. So that's something that comes consciously, you are thinking that, so that's a thought process issue. So we need to work on the thought pattern there. And when, if it is related to triggers from the past, as I mentioned, then accordingly we need to work on the triggers, understand where the fear is coming from, and then accordingly work on the fear. Try to help the client with desensitization, and helping them with understanding how, or maybe the fear is irrational to some extent, or maybe it was valid. I always say whatever they feel or think is completely valid, because that's something that's coming from within. But whether it's rational or irrational is the question to be asked.
That's a really good point in acknowledging when someone's going through this that the feeling is valid,
Yes.
whether or not everyone else in the room sees it in the same way. It's still okay that you feel like that.
Yes, definitely.
So when somebody is trying to change their mindset, that's not necessarily an easy thing to do, is it?
Oh, 100%. It's not easy. And I usually do not use the term change because it's a strong term. What I use rather is modify, because we are nobody to change anyone's behavior, actions, or thoughts. All we can do is modify it to help them live a balanced life, to help them find their peace, their satisfaction. So I always prefer to use the term modify, because see, today I might come in with certain traits which have built over time, or certain thought process that has built over time. So I wouldn't like anyone changing me, my thought process, my belief system. But rather, if someone said, "Oh, can you tweak this, modify this a little bit?" I would be more open to that. So, of course, it's not easy to, modify someone's thought pattern. As I said, that's built over years. So I do mention to my clients that, your thought process, your concerns, your issues are not of yesterday. It might have started to, be in notice a year back, but they are somewhere or the other deep rooted in, maybe even more in the past. Maybe you have suppressed your feelings over and over again unknowingly. And now you realize that one incident has caused a feeling overwhelming, and then you feel that only that one incident is the trigger. But that's not right, or that's not true for everyone. There might be a series of instances which might have led to this situation. So yes, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. I would say it takes time to work on personality issues, to work on thought process, uh, as compared to other concerns like motivation, procrastination, or self-esteem issues.
Do you find that there are common traits or perceptions that people have when they're experiencing anxiety and the likes? For example, they see the world in terms of scarcity instead of abundance.
There is a possibility that there is a pattern in thought process. Like, they feel that people don't understand them. They feel because also how society or friends or closed ones behave is like, calm down. That's the worst thing to say to someone who's anxious, because they also want to calm down, but they're unable to do so. So you're making them feel that, oh, I am not being able to calm down. Of course, they know that they need to calm down. Of course, they know that they need to, relax. So saying, don't worry, relax, calm down is a big no. I would say rather try and understand. Oh, I know that you're going through this. I'm here to help you out. I'm here to understand you. Let's take deep breaths. Let's take, a walk around, and so that's way how you can support the people. But yes, people who are anxious or go through anxiety do have a thought process that others do not understand that them, or they feel like, they're unable to breathe, or there are too many thoughts running at the same time, overthinking is happening, and that they can't handle it. The most common one that I've found out is a feeling of breathlessness.
Or tightness in the chest and not
Yes,
being able to
heaviness.
take enough air in.
Yeah.
Okay. So how often, if someone's feeling that, should they maybe seek help?
Everything has its own duration, but generally, if things have been prolonged for more than 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, it's better to seek help from a professional at an early stage rather than, waiting for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and then going in for therapy. Because I'm not saying progress doesn't happen, then it does happen, but the rate becomes a little slower than when it was at an initial stage. For example, if we have cough and cold and we treat it at that level, then we don't go to the level of having a viral or a higher, fever. But what we do generally, we wait out for 3 to 5 days in a cough and cold situation and we see how it's going. And then ultimately we go and visit a doctor after a week. So
Mhm.
same, it's, just human tendency to wait. But I don't think anything will become right or be fine on its own. We have to put in efforts if it's bothering us, whether it's physical health, mental health, or anything else.
And if someone does decide to seek help and find a counsellor, sometimes it can be hard to find the right fit. What should someone be looking out for to make sure that the counsellor is going to be most beneficial to them?
100%, it is really difficult to find the right fit. I have seen so many clients of mine who have changed therapists again and again, and I really appreciate those clients because it takes a lot of courage to seek help again and again. Because asking for help in the first time itself is so difficult that, if it doesn't work out, people do give up after the first time try or the second try because therapy is not something that everybody's open to or is okay with going to. So I really appreciate every client that comes in because I personally feel that it's not easy to seek therapy or seek for help, but if they do, I am glad that they do so. And now coming back to your question of the right fit, of course, see, I would also might not be the right fit for some or the other client. So I am not in that denial phase that, oh, I can help everyone. So a therapist shouldn't be in denial that they can help everyone, or a therapist should be open to accepting uh, the flaws that, okay, yes, this area is not my area of expertise. For example, I do not work with addictions. It could be any form. So even before the first session, I can be very clear that, if you are having issues with addiction or sexual concerns, I'm not the right person because that's not my area of expertise. I may refer you to somebody else. So I'm not wasting their time. I'm not, helping them in a way that they have a bad experience with therapy and they don't go to therapy again. So in that way, I'm very clear. And for the client, it's their right. They can go and ask the therapist about their qualifications, experience, and expertise. And if a therapist is hesitant to say that, then maybe you should seek for other therapists because there is no harm in knowing your therapist's qualifications or years of experience and knowing a little bit about their educational background. Of course, personal questions wouldn't be entertained, but if you're trying to understand their area of expertise, it's the therapist's responsibility. Secondly, you should always also see how the sessions are going for you. If you feel that, something is bothering you, the client should also be open with it to the therapist that, oh, this is not working out for me. Or maybe can we do something differently here? And so the therapist has to be open to feedback and work according to the client, of course, whenever required. If the therapist feels that no, this is something that will help the client on a later stage, which he or she is not understanding right now, then the therapist also has to be firm in his or her own decision and try and explain the client that, this is for your betterment. We may take it maybe a little more slower than the pace, but we have to follow this path as well. So it shouldn't be that, therapist is giving in with all the client's feedbacks and whatever the client is saying, then it's a friend, not a therapist.
So I guess maybe we could relate it a little bit to a personal trainer.
Yes,
Sometimes we have to go through some hard stuff to get the results that we're looking for,
definitely.
but we shouldn't be made to feel lesser or to be shamed during the session.
Yes. That's there. You shouldn't feel like, it's a burden, or if the therapist is not validating your feelings or addressing your feelings. So if there's a way that you can do that. Like if suppose you come and tell me, hey Simran, I'm feeling low today. I did not feel like doing this. I was so I know that's lack of motivation. But I cannot say, oh, you feel low in motivation or low in energy. I have to use the terms that you've used. So not adding my own terms is really important. I'll say, oh, I know that you might be feeling really sad. It might be really difficult for you to go through the day. So it's somewhere on the same lines as yours. But me
Mhm.
adding that you're feeling depressed while you've not mentioned it at all is a big no.
Okay. So your therapist shouldn't label you.
No, label as well as add their own feelings. Maybe I know that you are depressed, but it shouldn't come from me. It should come from you. Like, depressed is a very common term that I'm using, but like exchange of words. You say you're frustrated. I cannot use anger there. Although anger, frustration, irritation, all of these belong to the same family. But you use frustration. And if I use anger, you might feel that she's terming my frustration anger, which is different.
Just from TV shows and things like that, when we see somebody, on the couch, and often the therapist doesn't seem to add much to the conversation. They might say, well, what do you think? How do you feel? But it seems to be all on the patient or the client. What's your opinion on that?
Partially agree to it because the initial 1 or 2 sessions do seem like that because we are also new to the person. We don't know them completely. So we try to figure out. But of course, it's not just limited to, oh, what's happening and what, how are you doing today or what's wrong. It depends on how you probe for information as well, the right questions, the right techniques to ask at the right time, the right pauses. A lot of things come into play. But yes, I would say initial 1 or 2 sessions are the client more speaking about their concerns so that we have a better understanding and we can help them better. But later on, if the same thing's happening, then I think you need to recheck.
Okay. So I imagine that a lot of people may give up within those first 1 or 2 sessions thinking that the therapist isn't doing anything. I'm spending this money, but I'm not seeing any results.
Yeah.
So how might a client know that the therapist is doing a good job during those initial sessions if you feel like you're not really making any progress or you can't see what the therapist is going to be able to do for you?
So this is really important for both the client and therapist as well to address this. If I am taking sessions, what I personally do is I take first 5 minutes to inform the client what I am or what my qualifications are, as well as how therapy looks like. So I mentioned that it's a duration of this period of time. I am known to these languages. What we would do in the first 2 sessions, confidentiality would be maintained, and I would also give you some homework, but it's a slow process, so it might take time. And even after that, by the end of the session, if the client, comes up and says that, can you help me today? Can you give me some solution? So I do ask, what is it that's immediately bothering you and that might require help? Because the concerns are a little more deeper than that, and we might have to discuss in detail. So I do give 1 and 2 things here and there so that they feel that they're taking back something, but I do not give instant solutions because I feel those are temporary ones which might not work out.
Can you ask a therapist what your treatment plan is going to look like?
100% you can, but I'm not sure whether the therapist would be able to answer that in the first session itself because you're just building rapport, you're getting to know and understand the client's concerns unless they have very specific concerns like just procrastination or just motivation issues or just self-esteem issues. So if it's very or career counseling for that matter, so they know that this is the only thing that they want to work on and their goal is clear. In those aspects, it's okay, you can ask for a treatment plan, and otherwise also you can ask, but that does change over the time and over how the progress goes.
Would that seem strange for the therapist if a client asks, what might my treatment plan look like?
Mhm. Yeah, it's not strange. People can ask, "What's my treatment plan?" or "How will I be moving forward? How will therapy help me? How am I going to feel after this?" Because of course, I do mention very clearly that maybe after the therapy session, towards the end, I close or terminate the session by mentioning that you might feel good today or for half an hour or 1 hour, but maybe tomorrow morning you wake up with the same feelings that you had earlier, and it's okay, because therapy is not something that will bring overnight changes. It will take some
Mhm.
time, so you need some patience, and it's a two-way street. I come in, I give 45 minutes or 50 minutes, I talk to you, that's my time. But after that 45 minutes, what you do for a week is your effort. So it's a two-way street, and I feel as honest and transparent both the client and therapist are in the session, it's best for the both of them.
Given that you're dealing with 18 to 35-year-olds and they can be pretty heavy social media users, do you feel that that is having a particularly negative impact on the people that you see?
See, anything has both positive and negative, but yes, I would say in today's time, social media has played a major role in affecting how people view themselves, the perception that they have about themselves, or how a certain path in their career path or a relationship or a family should look like, because there are so many people putting up so many things, so you have that pressure that, oh, this is the norm, this is the ideal thing. And in that, if your friends are getting married right now, what's going on is the age range that you mentioned, everyone is either getting married or is in a relationship. So now you feel that pressure, oh, I also need to do because I also fall in that age range. But in all of this, I feel a person loses his or her own individuality, or his or her own initial thought.
What do you suggest that people do when it comes to social media?
I think use it as a form of entertainment, as a form of feeling a little relaxing, rather than taking the pressure of fitting in. Because if you are an individual who expresses his or her own thoughts, belief system, you will stand out. You will be someone who people would notice. But if you try and do the same things as others are doing, there's no difference. I'm not saying it's necessary to stand out and it's wrong to fit into a group, but it shouldn't go against your belief system. Like, for example, everybody in your friend circle likes a certain genre of movies, like, or say they like to watch crime documentaries, but you are a person who likes more of sitcoms. So it's okay to put out your opinion that I do not like crime documentaries. I'm someone who is a light-hearted person, and I like sitcoms, and I like to watch such content, and it's okay. Nobody's going to break your friendship or the relationship on this terms. Because see, at that point, maybe we agree, okay, I also like watching documentaries and that content, but later, 6 months, 1 year, we will feel really, it will be difficult for us to express again that let's go for a sitcom, or let's go for a rom-com, and then that we might regret that later. So everything has its own cycle. you know if you try and hide your feelings or opinions initially, it's only for a period of time that you would be able to do that. Somewhere or the other in the future, that will pop up, that will come out in some form or the other.
And when someone's seeing a therapist, how would they know that they not fixed, but have done enough of the work that they can stop?
Okay, great question. I would say. So it depends on the goals. So what I do with my clients is, after the first one, or mostly the first session, I ask them what are their expectations from therapy, or what are their goals. So I do have a basic structure in the first session or the second session itself, that they have these 5 goals. We work on those 5 goals, and then we understand how the progress rate is and how things are going, and if we feel that the client is able to manage themselves on their own. Like, for example, if they are having anxiety, and I've helped them to cope with anxiety, So what do I do if I can see that progress and if I can see that they're managing well? What I do is I ask them to, instead of coming once a week, come once in 2 weeks. Then later follow up in a month. So that way, reducing the time they come to a therapist or seek a therapist, depending on the progress rate.
It would be important then that the therapist gives their clients clear goals so that the client themselves can see that they're making progress.
Yes, it's on the therapist as well as the client as well, because the client has to define what they are expecting. The client has to define what they want to achieve by coming to therapy, whether it is just as a form of venting out, whether it is of particular goal that they want to achieve, or it's just that something they want to try out and they're not sure about it. That's also fine, because there's so many people who just come in to say that, oh, a friend suggested, oh, my partner suggested, or someone from the family suggested that, you need to seek help. So I'm sure. So in those cases, just hear the client out, understand where they're coming from, and maybe if they feel better, they might come up for the second session, they might not.
And how do you suggest people talk about the fact that they are undergoing therapy?
I would say it's again individual's choice. It's okay to talk. It's okay if they don't want to. And if they want to, maybe start with a close circle, close and individual, and whom you trust and whom you know that, they might not judge you or make any opinion about you, would rather support you. I know it takes a lot of courage to go and even tell that closed one, but maybe if you're confident enough, then I think people are opening up about it to their concerned persons. And if you're not, that's also fine. You can ask that to your therapist also, that, how do I open up or how do I go forward with it? Because today people are understanding that mental health is equally important. And, there's so much, I would say here again, social media is playing a role in a good way, that people are coming out with their issues and concerns and people are addressing them. Earlier, probably emotions and feelings were made fun of to some extent if you were expressing them, but now it's no more, and people do understand what, or at least try to understand what you're going through. So I think if you are confident and if you want to take a chance to go ahead and express yourself, people would understand.
Is there anything that you would like people to know that you think is really important that they understand?
Yes, I think as we give importance to our physical health, similarly, we should also address our mental health, because we shouldn't wait out for that burnout to happen, because then it becomes really difficult to move out of it or cope from it. Because physical health is something that can be cured with few medications and something, but mental health is something that affects all aspects of your life. It might affect your physical health, it might affect your social life, it might affect your personal life, it might affect your family life. So it's affecting all areas of life and creating a disbalance, because your mind is not at rest, your mind is not stable.
Can you tell me a little bit more about burnout and what that looks like?
Definitely. So there would be, I'll use a few statements as an example to explain. Like, you wake up in the morning, you feel like, I don't want to go to work. Or you just have that irritation that, oh, again, today it's a Monday, I have to go to work. It's a Tuesday, I have to go to work. So that pressure. Then when you're at work, you feel distracted. You don't feel like doing anything. You feel like, I'm not being able to focus on the task, or I'm not being able to do this particular task, or continuously doubting yourself, taking too much pressure, going home and having arguments with your family or your friends. So, not being able to sleep, not feeling like, or changes in appetite. So, these are signs of burnout where or working overtime, not meeting deadlines. All of these are signs of burnout where that now it's high time that you either take a break or understand and try to figure out a routine, time management, and why things are not working out.
And is that different than a breakdown? Many years ago, I used to hear people saying, "Oh, that person they had a breakdown." I didn't know what that meant, and I don't think I do even now.
Breakdown could be in any form. It could be emotional breakdown, mental breakdown, physical breakdown. So, emotional breakdown is when you are overwhelmed with all aspects of your life. Like, when something's happening, that you're going through a situation in your life and you're unable to control your emotions. So, that's an emotional breakdown. Burnout is basically related to just your work. So, it comes with career, work life, and burnout comes there.
So if you say you're not able to control your emotions, do you mean people might burst out crying or get
Yeah.
really angry, or both those
Yeah,
things?
that's right. Yeah, that's right. People either, when they're overwhelmed or are unable to control their emotions, either they cry, either they are really frustrated or angry, or they shut down completely. Like, become silent and just don't express anymore, because maybe they feel that whenever I have expressed my feelings, the other person has reacted in a manner that they don't understand. So they just feel that, there's no point expressing. So let's shut
Mm.
down.
And might they withdraw and even physically remove themselves from their friendship circle?
Yes. So what happens there is, when your feelings and thoughts have not been addressed or understood, you try to shut down, cut off from those people, try to feel that, nobody understands me, try to start living more to yourself, with yourself, and feel like, a sense of loneliness does come in there, and you like to be more alone than in a group setting.
And as a friend, what can we do?
As a friend, you can always be there. And I always say that, make the other person feel heard. Nothing else. You just have to give your ear to them. You don't have to force them to, oh, tell me what's happened. Oh, you can cry. You don't have to tell them, show what emotion they want to. Just say that I am sure. You can share
Hmm.
whenever you want to. Take your time. That's it.
Hmm.
Like, for example, when there's a death in the family or in your friend circle, people tend to say, cry it out, you will feel better. Grieving is not just crying it out. People may cry on the same, they may cry after a week, they might cry after months. It's a process. Some people might express their grief in the form of crying, others might express it in the form of maybe just being with themselves.
So as you were describing earlier about what good therapy looks like, that's the practice that we need to do with the people close to us, in that we need to make sure that they feel heard and that their feelings and thoughts are valid, and that we don't overlay what they have said or shared with our own opinion.
Yes.
Okay, that's really good advice. Are there any resources that you would recommend if somebody's not able to go and see a therapist and they might like to look into it?
Definitely. So there are a lot of, worksheets, or there are a lot of, tools online. Also, there are certain applications as well today that provide you those resources, and it's available for free as well. So you can go look into it, but I would always suggest that that may be temporary, and all the information that's, provided generally is not 100% accurate, because today we may know how to fix, say, something that's not working, fix a refrigerator or fix an AC by looking on a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
but we're not the expert. So we may try and fix it temporarily,
Hmm.
but for a permanent solution, we might require a professional. So I would say seek a professional if you're unable to. There are a lot of techniques that you can use. You can, follow therapist aid. So that's a website which provides a lot of worksheets and a lot of content related to mental health. It could be worksheets, it could be information sheets that you can read and understand what's going on. And yes, that's something that you can utilize.
And are there any other thoughts that you want to leave us with?
I would say express yourself whenever you feel like. And I know there might always be a fear of judgment, but at the end of the day, you're going to bed with yourself, with who you are. So give priority to how you feel and what makes you feel happy is, I think, I would leave you with today.
How we feel impacts everything in our life. So if you could do with a mental boost, be sure to check out the links in the show notes. And while you're there, let me know if you'd like to hear more conversations like this by leaving a message or hitting subscribe.
Now, dear listener, it's your turn. Have you got something to add to the conversation? Then get in touch via the links in the show notes. Whether you have questions, a message of support, or resources that you think might help, we'd love to hear from you. And if by chance you know someone with a story that will inspire others, be sure to let us know. Your contributions help turn inspiration into action, drive positive change, and make life just that little bit better. And if this conversation inspired you to expand your worldview, head to hellohuman.global to join the conversation.